The message arrived at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Network at 0300 hours UTC.
Commander June Park rubbed his tired eyes as the strange signal pattern repeated across his screen.
It wasn't in any known alien language format the system recognized.
"Run it through the advanced cipher sequence," he ordered his team.
Lieutenant Eun Kim nodded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface.
"Sir, the signal's originating from the Altair system."
"That's Novan territory." The Novans were peaceful beings known for their diplomatic approach to galactic politics.
They had been among the first to welcome humanity to the interstellar community 50 years ago.
3 minutes later, the translation flickered onto the main screen. Urgent. Under attack. Drekari invasion force. Civilian casualties massive.
Request immediate assistance from any allied forces. *.
Commander Park's blood ran cold. The Drekari were ruthless expansionists, stripping planets of resources and leaving nothing behind. "Get Admiral Tay on the line," he ordered. "Now." Admiral Su Tay was sleeping when the call came through. She woke instantly, decades of military service having trained her to transition from deep sleep to full alertness in seconds.
"Park, this better be important," she said, though she already knew it must be. Park never called at this hour unless it was critical. "Distress call from the Novans, Admiral.
The Drekari are attacking their homeworld."
Tay was out of bed and pulling on her uniform before Park finished speaking.
"Prepare a full briefing. I'll be at command in 20 minutes.
By the time Tay arrived, the Situation Room was filled with senior officers. Technical Specialist Khan stood by the main display, pointing to data streams.
The Drekari fleet entered Novan space 3 days ago. They bypassed the outer defense stations and went straight for the homeworld.
Based on signal analysis, we believe the Novans have already lost most of their orbital defenses. Tay studied the tactical display, her expression grave.
"How long would it take us to reach them?"
4 days with our fastest ships, Admiral."
"The Novans won't last 4 days."
Tay turned to her strategic officer.
"What assets do we have near the Altair system?" Commander Day checked his tablet. "Nothing substantial. But the 7th Fleet completed its training exercises yesterday. They're fully supplied and ready for deployment." The room went quiet. The 7th Fleet, nicknamed the Reapers, was Earth's most powerful battle group.
Sending them would be a major military commitment.
"Get me a direct line to President Moon," Tay ordered. "I need authorization to deploy immediately." 30 minutes later, Tay stood before the United Earth Defense Council. The holographic star map between them showed the Altair system in red, indicating active conflict.
"The Novans have always been our allies," she stated firmly.
"We cannot ignore their distress call."
General Han leaned forward.
"The Altair system is 4 days' journey even with our fastest jump drives. By the time we arrive. That's why I'm requesting deployment of the 7th Fleet," Admiral Tay interrupted. "They're ready to move now." President Moon looked troubled. "The galaxy still fears us for our military capabilities. Deploying the Reapers sends a message." "Good," Admiral Tay replied. "The message is simple: Earth protects its allies." Defense Minister June sighed.
"We should consider the diplomatic implications. Other species might see this as Earth becoming more aggressive in galactic affairs." "With respect, Minister," Tay countered, "when an ally calls for help while being slaughtered, diplomacy takes a back seat to action." President Moon studied the tactical display for a long moment before nodding.
"Very well. The 7th Fleet is authorized to deploy immediately. Admiral Tay, you will command the operation personally." The authorization came through officially 20 minutes later. Admiral Tay contacted her second-in-command immediately. "Admiral G," she said to the man whose hologram appeared before her. "Prepare the 7th Fleet for immediate deployment to the Altair system."
"The Novans need our help."
1G nodded, his face solemn. "How bad is it?" "Worse than anything we've seen since the Proxima conflict."
"The Drekari are hitting civilian targets deliberately."
"The fleet will be ready to jump in 2 hours, Admiral." As the call ended, Tay walked to the observation deck of Earth Orbital Command. Below her, the blue planet spun peacefully, its citizens mostly unaware of the conflict raging 4 light-years away. Above, she could see the massive warships of the 7th Fleet preparing to depart, 15 of the most powerful vessels humans had ever built. The Dracarys had never faced humanity in battle before. They were about to learn why even the oldest spacefaring races treated Earth with cautious respect. "Send word to the Novans," she told her communications officer. "Tell them to hold on. Earth is coming." The jump into Altair space was precise, 15 massive warships materializing in perfect formation. On the bridge of the UES Indomitable, Admiral 1G took in the tactical display with a grim expression. The Novan homeworld was under siege. Orbital defense platforms lay in ruins, cities burned across the planet's surface, and the remnants of the Novan fleet fought desperately against a Dracary force 3 times their size. "Open a channel to the Novan Defense Ministry," Admiral G ordered. The face that appeared on screen belonged to Defense Minister Hara, her silver skin ashen with exhaustion, violet eyes hollow with grief. "Humans," she said, surprise evident in her voice. "You responded to our call." "Earth and Nova have been allies for decades," Admiral G replied. "We came as soon as we received your distress signal." Hara hesitated. "We've heard stories about your military, about the 7th Fleet specifically." "All true, I assure you," Admiral G said without pride or shame. "And today, that reputation will serve you well." Lieutenant Day approached the Admiral's chair. "Sir, we're detecting heavy bombardment of the southern continent. Civilian centers are being targeted systematically." G nodded. "Move the fleet into defensive position. Have the Herald and Dauntless cover the evacuation routes." As the Earthships moved into formation, Admiral G ordered a complete scan of the Dracary fleet. The results were troubling. The Dracary had deployed over 60 warships, including 3 massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the largest human vessels. "They've spotted us, Admiral," reported the sensor officer. "Dracary vessels breaking off their attack on the planet. 6 destroyers and a cruiser on intercept course." "Let them come," G said calmly. "Weapons status?" "All systems ready, sir." Their conversation was interrupted by an incoming transmission, the Dracary commander, his scaled face filling the viewscreen. "Human vessels," the commander hissed. "This conflict does not concern Earth. Depart immediately or be destroyed." Admiral G smiled thinly. "We're not going anywhere." He terminated the connection and turned to his tactical officer. "Launch stealth reconnaissance drones. I want complete intelligence on their fleet positioning." The sleek, black drones shot from the Earthships, becoming invisible as their cloaking systems engaged. They slipped through the Dracary formation, recording everything. Captain Sun approached Admiral G with a tablet. "Sir, the Dracary are jamming most communications from the surface, but we're picking up thousands of distress beacons. Can we establish a safe corridor for civilian evacuation ships?" "Yes, sir. If we position the Thunderchild and Valiant here, we can create a protective screen." "Do it." The images from the reconnaissance drones began streaming to the main screen. The horror of the situation became clear. The Dracary weren't just conquering, they were exterminating. Transport ships filled with fleeing civilians were being shot down. Cities were being bombarded long after their defenses had fallen. "Sir," Lieutenant Day said quietly, "they're not taking prisoners." Admiral G's expression hardened. "Contact Minister Hara again." When the Novan minister's face appeared, G spoke directly. "Minister, we've seen enough. The 7th Fleet is engaging the Dracary. We need to coordinate our efforts." Relief washed over Hara's face. "We have 5 battlecruisers still operational and 11 defense platforms that can be brought back online with help." "Good. My tactical team will coordinate with yours immediately. Can you patch me through to your fleet commander?" "That would be me," Hara said simply. "We've lost everyone else." G nodded respectfully. "Then we'll work together. My first priority is establishing safe evacuation routes for your civilians. The Dracarys will target any ships that try to leave, Hara warned. Let them try, G said, his voice cold. They'll learn why the 7th Fleet is called the Reapers. As they spoke, the first wave of Dracarys ships entered firing range. Bright energy beams lanced out, striking the shields of the human vessels. Return fire, G ordered calmly. Target their weapon systems. The Earth ships responded with devastating precision. Advanced targeting systems locked onto the Dracarys vessels' weak points, and concentrated fire punched through their shields. 2 Dracarys destroyers exploded in brilliant flashes of light. They're calling for reinforcements, reported the communications officer. A lot of reinforcements. G wasn't surprised. The Dracarys hadn't expected human involvement, but they would adapt quickly. Prepare all ships for full combat operations, G ordered, his voice steady. And get me a direct line to Colonel Min's Marine detachment. We're going to need boarding parties ready. As the Dracarys fleet regrouped for a major assault, Admiral G looked out at the burning Novan world. He had seen too many worlds fall to conquerors, too many species subjugated or exterminated. Not this time. All ships, battle stations, he announced fleet-wide. The 7th Fleet has entered the war. The human fleet split into 3 battle groups, a maneuver that confused the Dracarys command. They had expected the humans to form a defensive line around Nova, not to divide their already outnumbered forces. On the bridge of the UES Indomitable, Admiral G addressed his captains through secure channels. Battle Group Alpha will engage their main fleet. Beta will target their supply lines. Gamma will protect Nova's remaining defenses. Captain Sun nodded from the command chair of the UES Thunderchild. The Dracarys haven't fought humans before. They don't know what's coming. The Dracarys commander, Lord Vex, watched the human ships with disdain. His species had conquered 12 systems in the past decade. These humans, though rumored to be fierce, had inferior technology. Their ships were smaller, their weapons less powerful. Victory seemed certain. They're splitting up, his tactical officer reported. 3 separate formations. A mistake, Vex hissed. Concentrate our main force on their center group. Crush them quickly, then destroy the others. The Dracarys warships moved forward, their massive cannons charging. What happened next shocked them. Battle Group Alpha suddenly appeared to multiply where there had been 5 ships, now 20 identical vessels moved in formation. The Dracarys sensors couldn't distinguish which were real and which were fake. Holographic decoys, Vex realized too late. Hidden behind the decoys, the real human ships launched their first attack. Special missiles designed to penetrate shields struck the leading Dracarys cruisers. Instead of exploding, they released powerful electromagnetic pulses that shut down the ship's systems. We've lost contact with 6 cruisers, the Dracarys tactical officer reported, panic in his voice. Meanwhile, Battle Group Beta executed a daring move. Using the chaos as cover, they slipped behind the Dracarys formation and targeted the supply ships and fuel tankers. Without these, the Dracarys fleet would be stranded in the system. On the UES Valiant, Captain Yu watched as her gunners found their marks. Target their engines first, she ordered. Then their communication arrays. The Dracarys were now fighting in 2 directions at once. Lord Vex snarled in frustration. Launch all fighter squadrons. Target their smallest ships first. Hundreds of Dracarys fighters swarmed toward the human vessels. But Battle Group Gamma was ready. They deployed their own fighters, sleek, maneuverable craft piloted by humans who had trained for years in combat simulators. Wolf Squadron, you're clear to engage, Commander Quan announced from the fighter control deck. Show them what Earth pilots can do. The space around Nova became a chaotic battlefield of laser fire, missile contrails, and exploding ships. The human fighters moved in tight formations, using tactics developed through centuries of aerial and space combat. But the most shocking move came next. Colonel Min stood in the drop bay of the UES Indomitable, checking her armor one last time. Around her, 100 Marines in black exosuits did the same. Our target is the Dracarys command ship,
she told her squad leaders. We board, we find their data core, we extract what we can, and we leave. Quick and clean. Admiral G's voice came through her helmet. The boarding corridor will only stay open for 30 seconds, Colonel. After that, you're on your own until extraction. Understood, Admiral, Min replied. The drop bay doors opened, revealing the battle raging outside. In a coordinated maneuver, 3 human cruisers created a gap in the Dracarys defenses, allowing a special boarding craft to approach their flagship undetected. The craft attached to the Dracarys ship's hull. Cutting lasers sliced through the metal, creating an entry point. Within minutes, 100 human marines were inside the massive alien vessel. The Dracarys had never experienced boarding actions. Their internal security was minimal. The human marines moved efficiently through the ship, neutralizing any resistance with precision. Colonel Min led the way to the central data core. Plant the extraction devices, she ordered when they reached it. We need to know what they're after on Nova. As her team worked, Dracarys security forces finally responded. Heavy fire echoed down the corridors. We've got company, Lieutenant Park reported. Lots of company. Min nodded. Team 1, continue the extraction. Everyone else, defensive positions. The Marines formed a perimeter, their advanced weapons ready. When the Dracarys soldiers appeared, they met a wall of disciplined fire. The fighting was intense in close quarters, exactly the kind of combat humans excelled at. 20 minutes later, the data extraction was complete. Admiral, Min reported over comms as her team fought their way back to the extraction point. The Dracarys aren't just invading, they're harvesting specific Novan technology. Something called the Luminarch Matrix. The intelligence came at a cost. As the Marines retreated to their boarding craft, Dracarys reinforcements cut off their route. A desperate firefight ensued. We need cover fire. Min shouted into her calm. Outside, the UES Valiant moved dangerously close to the Dracarys flagship. Its point defense guns targeted specific sections of the enemy ship, creating escape routes for the Marines. But a Dracarys battlecruiser noticed the Valiant's vulnerable position. It fired its main cannon, tearing through the human ship's shields and cutting deep into its hull. The Valiant, critically damaged, began to drift toward the Dracarys carrier. Captain Yoon made a final decision. All hands, abandon ship, she ordered calmly. Set collision course with the Dracarys carrier. The two ships collided in a spectacular explosion that temporarily lit up the battlefield. The sacrifice created the diversion needed for Colonel Min's team to escape. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral G received the casualty reports with a grim expression. The cost was already high, and the battle had only begun. Deploy Nova missiles, he ordered. 3 days of continuous fighting had worn down both fleets. Earth's ships, though fewer in number, had proven remarkably resilient. The Dracarys had lost nearly half their original force but still outnumbered the humans. The surviving Novan vessels had joined formation with Earth's ships. Together, they formed a protective ring around the Novan homeworld, preventing the Dracarys from landing more troops on the surface. In the war room of the UES Indomitable, Admiral G and Defense Minister Hara studied the battle map. Their supply lines are vulnerable here, G said, pointing to a cluster of Dracarys transport ships. If we can cut them off, they'll be forced to retreat or risk running out of fuel and ammunition. I can assign our remaining cruisers to assist, Hara offered. Their planning was interrupted when Lieutenant Day rushed into the room. Admiral, our long-range sensors have detected new signals at the edge of the system. G looked up sharply. Dracarys reinforcements? Yes, sir. A second fleet, including. Day hesitated, his face pale. Including a planet killer. The room fell silent. Planet killers were rare in the galaxy, weapons so powerful they could fracture a world's core, causing it to break apart from within. Most spacefaring species had agreed never to build such weapons. How long until they arrive? Hera asked, her voice barely above a whisper. 6 hours at their current speed, Day replied. G turned to the intelligence officer.
What have we learned from the data Colonel Min recovered?
Lieutenant Kong activated a holographic display.
We've decoded more of the data from the Dracarys command ship.
The Luminarch matrix they're targeting is a Novan invention capable of creating sustainable artificial stars. With that technology, the Dracarys could power their expansion across the galaxy, Hara explained. No more need for naturally occurring stars. They could build bases anywhere, power their fleets indefinitely.
Admiral G straightened his uniform.
Then we make our stand here.
He turned to Lieutenant Day. Activate the AICS. Day's eyes widened.
Sir, that system is still classified.
Not anymore. Authorization code, Phoenix 7 Delta. The lieutenant nodded and began typing commands into his console.
Moments later, a subtle change came over the ship's systems. The lighting dimmed slightly as power was redirected.
What is AICS? Hara asked. Adaptive Intelligence Combat System, G explained. Earth's most closely guarded military secret. An AI designed to analyze enemy combat patterns and predict their moves before they make them.
As the system came online, G made another decision.
He summoned Commander J to the war room.
I have a special mission for you, G told him. One with very low survival odds.
Commander J, a veteran of dozens of high-risk operations, nodded solemnly. I understand, Admiral. What's the target? G pointed to the approaching planet killer on the display. That is. Within an hour, a small stealth vessel detached from the UES Indomitable. Aboard were 6 specialists led by Commander J.
Their ship was barely larger than a shuttle, painted with radar-absorbing material and equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology Earth had developed. Our window is narrow, Jay told his team as they approached the massive Dracarys vessel. Once we're aboard, we have 30 minutes to disable their main weapon before they get within firing range of Nova. The team consisted of Jay, explosives expert Sergeant Hoon, systems specialist Lieutenant Era, combat medic Corporal Sue, and 2 veteran Marines for security. Each wore lightweight infiltration armor and carried specialized equipment for their mission. As they approached the planet killer, they saw its true scale. The vessel was nearly 10 kilometers long, bristling with weapon emplacements and surrounded by a swarm of fighter craft.
I've identified a maintenance hatch on the lower hull, Lieutenant Era reported. It's minimally guarded. Jay nodded. Take us in. Their small craft slipped through the Dracarys defenses undetected and attached to the hull near the maintenance hatch. Using cutting tools, they created their own entrance and slipped inside. The interior of the planet killer was vast and dimly lit. The team moved silently through service corridors, avoiding Dracarys patrols. According to the schematics we extracted, the main weapon control is 3 levels up, Era whispered, checking her handheld scanner. They encountered their first resistance at a security checkpoint. 4 Dracarys guards stood between them and the access lift they needed. With hand signals, Jay deployed his team. Moments later, all 4 guards were down, neutralized without raising an alarm. As they ascended through the ship, the battle outside intensified. The human and Novan fleets engaged the Dracarys reinforcements in a desperate attempt to slow their advance. The AICS system was proving its worth. Human ships seemed to anticipate Dracarys maneuvers, countering them before they fully developed. But the sheer number of enemy vessels was overwhelming. On the bridge of his flagship, the Dracarys Supreme Commander received a troubling report. The humans are fighting differently, his tactical officer reported. They seem to know our attack patterns before we execute them. Impossible, the commander hissed. Increase our randomization protocols and prepare the planet killer for firing sequence. It was then that alarms began blaring throughout his ship. Intruders detected in weapons control. Inside the planet killer, Commander J's team had reached their target. The weapon control room was massive, filled with Dracarys technicians preparing the firing sequence. Execute now, Jay ordered. His team burst into action. Sergeant Hoon planted specialized EMP charges at key points while Lieutenant Era hacked into the main console. The Marines provided covering fire as Dracarys security forces responded to the intrusion.
Corporal Sue was hit in the first volley but continued to work, patching her wound while simultaneously helping Hoon place the charges. 30 seconds to lockout, Era called, her fingers flying across the alien interface. The Dracarys security forces were closing in from all sides.
Jay made a decision.
Everyone fall back to the secondary position, he ordered.
I'll finish here.
His team hesitated but followed orders.
As they retreated, Jay connected the final EMP charges and activated Lieutenant Era's virus. The massive weapon system began to shut down, its power cores cycling into safety mode.
Alarms blared as Jay fought his way back to his team. They had 12 minutes to get off the ship before the Dracary could restore their systems.
Outside, the battle had reached its critical point. The planet killer's lights suddenly dimmed, its massive cannon powering down mid-charge. The Dracary commander received the report with disbelief: humans aboard his flagship, systems failing, weapon controls locked.
Now he understood why humans were feared, not for their technology, but for their absolute determination to win at any cost. The Dracary fleet retreated 3 days later. Their command structure was in disarray after Commander Jay's team successfully escaped the planet killer. Without their ultimate weapon and with their supply lines cut by Admiral G's strategic positioning, the Dracary Supreme Commander finally ordered withdrawal.
The cost had been high. 7 Earth vessels destroyed, thousands of human and Novan lives lost.
The Novan homeworld bore deep scars, cities reduced to rubble, vast forests burned to ash, millions of civilians displaced.
On Nova's surface, a solemn ceremony honored the fallen. Admiral G stood beside Defense Minister Hara as memorial lights floated into the evening sky, one for each life sacrificed. The soft blue glow of the lights reflected off the silver skin of the gathered Novans, creating a scene of haunting beauty. "Your people fought with a ferocity we've never witnessed," Hara said quietly. "The stories about humans
are often exaggerated," G finished for her.
"But sometimes, they're not exaggerated enough."
Captain Sun approached with Commander J, who had returned from his mission with only 4 of his 6-person team.
Though injured, J had insisted on attending the ceremony. "The planet killer?"
G asked him softly.
"Disabled permanently," J replied.
"We corrupted its core systems beyond repair. They'll have to scrap the whole thing."
Hara looked at the human commander with newfound respect.
"You risked everything for a world not your own."
"That's what allies do," J said simply.
Later that day, in the Grand Hall of the Novan Council, Admiral G and Minister Hara prepared to sign the Nova-Earth Defense Pact, the most comprehensive military alliance in Earth's short galactic history. The surviving captains of both fleets stood witness, along with representatives from Novan cities across the planet. 2 weeks ago, we sent a desperate call into the darkness, Hara addressed the assembly. We had little hope of rescue.
The Dracary outnumbered us, outgunned us. Our defeat seemed certain. She gestured to Admiral G and the human officers.
But Earth answered. When no other power would risk confronting the Dracary, Earth sent its deadliest fleet. They came not for profit, not for territory, but because we once called them friends.
G stepped forward to sign the document.
His hand steady despite the exhaustion of the long campaign. This pact ensures that from this day forward, our worlds stand together.
An attack on Nova is an attack on Earth. Our strengths united, our weaknesses covered by each other's capabilities.
Hara signed next, her violet eyes meeting G's.
Today we are more than allies. We are family. The ceremony concluded with the exchange of gifts.
Hara presented G with a crystal containing the complete knowledge of Novan stellar engineering, the same technology the Dracary had sought to steal. In return, G offered designs for Earth's advanced shield systems.
News of the battle spread quickly through interstellar channels.
The message was clear: the species that assists humanity gains a powerful ally, those who threaten humanity's friends face the Reapers. 3 days later, as the 7th Fleet prepared to return home, Admiral G walked through the recovering city of Laris with Minister Hara.
Earth engineers and Novan builders worked side by side, restoring buildings and infrastructure.
We're leaving behind 3 ships and a contingent of engineers, G told her. They'll help protect Nova while your defenses are rebuilt. The people have named a plaza after your fleet, Hara said, pointing to a newly cleared space where workers were erecting a monument.
Reaper Square. I hope you don't mind. G smiled. It seems appropriate.
Their walk was interrupted by Lieutenant Day, who approached with a tablet. Urgent transmission from Earth Command, Admiral. G reviewed the message, his expression growing serious.
Another distress call?
The Centauri Collective, Day confirmed.
They're reporting unknown aggressors at their outer colonies. Hara looked concerned. The Centauri are nearly 3 sectors away.
Yes, G agreed. But they're also signatories to the Mutual Aid Treaty.
Just as Nova was. Understanding passed between them.
This was the new role humanity had chosen, protectors for those who could not protect themselves. Your ships are still damaged from our battle, Hara observed.
We'll manage, G replied.
The Reapers have never refused a call for help.
As they walked back to the landing area, Hara made a decision. 2 of our repaired cruisers will join you. Their captains have already volunteered.
G looked surprised. Your world is still vulnerable.
As you said, Admiral, that's what allies do.
The next morning, the 7th Fleet departed Nova Space, 2 sleek Novan vessels integrated into their formation.
On the bridge of the UES Indomitable, Admiral G looked out at his battered but unbroken fleet.
They were soldiers, peacekeepers, protectors, Earth's sword and shield among the stars. Plot a course for Centauri space, he ordered.
The Reapers have work to do.
As the fleet accelerated toward their jump point, the ships of 2 different worlds moved as one. Behind them, Nova began its long recovery, secure in the knowledge that they were no longer alone in a dangerous galaxy. And across the stars, other threatened species watched and wondered if perhaps humanity, with all its fierce reputation, might be the ally they had been waiting for.